Hey,
Hello,
hey
hello.
guys. I
What's
love that.
up?
I love that cue we just got. Ready or not, we're going live. Okay, we're just gonna
We're
do
doing it.
it.
Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Good to see you, lovely ladies.
Good to see you guys. You guys
Getting
have a good
through
weekend?
together.
I'm glad I'm seeing Brandon from afar. We just had a little argument. No, I'm just kidding.
You
There's
two are
never
always bickering. I'm here to be the peacemaker, the median.
there's never any real beef. It's
Nah.
always the impossible.
Brandon's always all talk.
It's all impossible beef between us. We're in for John, Amy, and Felicia today. I'm gonna have a fun Monday to tip off your day right. Let's talk about your weather outside. It's been a really hot few days. I don't do well with heat. I don't know about y'all, and today
Yeah.
is no exception. You're seeing some droplets coming down. You see in our cam with some chances of rain throughout the day, partly cloudy, 87 degrees, but whoop, it is humid, it's sticky. You add the rain to it, not a fun mix. 89 degrees, the high, muggy day. We had sunrise at 5:18 this morning. The sun will set around 8:30 tonight. Might get to as low as 73 degrees. Now look at the rest of the week for you. More rain. You're going to want to have the umbrella ready for you on Tuesday. Wednesday, little less muggy. Still going to be a hot one outside as the temperatures do rise and continue to rise as we get into our weekend. 4th of July, it will be hot. So if you're planning a barbecue, have the water ready and stay hydrated. But it's looking to be a good week and a good weekend to celebrate the red, white, and blue.
I love how John says we're going to be toasty. We're going to be baking.
Yeah.
We're going to be hot.
All those descriptors. All right, guys, are you ready to bring in our first guest?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's bring in Imani Crenshaw, who found her passion for helping the deaf community at a young age when her dad actually began losing his hearing. Now she's a sign language interpreter for Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. Imani, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. Okay, so first I need to know what were the first things that you learned either about yourself or just about sign language that you were like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that this is how it was.
Like you said, I went to ISU, Illinois State University, to pursue a career in deaf education. And it was amazing because once I started learning, I started meeting deaf people everywhere. I recall I was sitting at lunch with a friend, teaching her the alphabet, and it was a lady right next to me who happened to be deaf, and she saw me signing to her, and then we just had a full-blown conversation. I would run into deaf people at restaurants, so it was almost like it was destined to happen.
What made you want to get into teaching for the deaf and hard of hearing?
So I've wanted to teach since I was 6 years old. I never changed my mind about that at all. Once I went away to school, that's kind of around the time my dad started losing his hearing. And we were kind of struggling to figure out why and what types of hearing aids would work for him or if they wouldn't. And so that got me kind of really interested in hearing loss. Like, my dad's my best friend. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to figure it out if they can't. So that's when I kind of started getting interested in hearing loss, and the rest was history.
Yeah, Imani, what I love about you is you can really feel your passion. And I think that's so interesting about sign language is the expression that people need to have. And you got to have an energy behind it. And I absolutely love your TikToks. Tell us about how you kind of bring your own personality into every sign video you do.
For sure. I do agree. It's a lot about expression. I teach American Sign Language, so I'm always constantly trying to get my students to understand, to work on their facial expressions. But to bring my own personality in, I don't know. I guess I picked songs that I kind of can feel, and I'll listen to the song a few times before so I can kind of really understand what is that artist saying so that I can give a proper interpretation of what's happening, and then it just comes out.
Speaking of personality, what's your shirt say? I see some shiny stuff going on.
So my best friend, she has started doing sign language classes online through quarantine. So I made a shirt just kind of supporting her. So the name of her business is Sign with Stokes.
And you've got
That
kind
is
of like
amazing.
got like a
Imani,
side
now
hustle.
I'm gonna give you a plug right here. Okay. You are referred to as the go-to interpreter for Lieutenant Governor of Illinois, Juliana Stratton. Number one, how does that feel? Number two, I mean, did that take a little bit of getting used to put yourself out there like that?
Absolutely. It absolutely did. It's amazing that they've been so supportive of me. And actually, like, her office is definitely working with me to help me to get my certification, because that was something that I was planning to do prior to quarantine. So they've been just phenomenal. It's an amazing feeling. Yes, definitely something to get used to.
Yeah, Amani. Really quick to circle back to your shirt and Brandon. I was checking out your Instagram, and now your Instagram, it's kind of like it's Crenshaw Creations. Tell us kind of like what you've got going on. It's a little side hustle here.
Yeah.
It is another side hustle. I loved crafting and creating as well. So that's also something I do on the side. That's my business page is Crenshaw Creations. So yeah, I love crafting and making personalized and custom gifts for people too.
I mean, you do it all, you know, you got the governor, you got creations, you got crafts. What doesn't Amani do?
Thanks.
So how does someone pick up sign language? Someone who's interested in actually jumping into it, because I'm sure it can be an intimidating thing at first to learn a new language in general, but especially something like this.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times people don't realize that American Sign Language is an official language.
Mm-hmm.
So it is literally getting used to grammar, structure, syntax, all of that. So I would definitely suggest taking a course in person if you can. It is a little bit difficult to learn from like a book, some 2D pictures, and absolutely, like any other language, immersion is the best way. So find some deaf people to chat with and like really get to know how they use the language.
That's interesting you bring that up in terms of in person. It's hard to do stuff in person nowadays. Are you finding, how are you adapting to that with COVID-19 and your own teaching?
Yeah, it is a real struggle. I've just been telling my students, you know, I'm attempting to be really patient with them. I have to like do different signs at different angles so they can see what hand shape I'm doing. I record videos of myself and post it for them, as well as meeting on Zoom so they can kind of practice to themselves. It's been rough, but they seem to be doing well, because this is when the summer semester started, I first met them on Zoom, whereas like my spring course, I did meet them in person at least, and then we had to transition. So meeting for the summer was a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Imani, oh, sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Deanna.
I was just going to ask you, because you're dedicated to bringing awareness to the deaf community and kind of sharing the ins and outs of sign language. What are some misconceptions that you wish people knew? You know, I mean, and to be honest with you, I took sign language in grammar school, but you know, I haven't had to use it. And to be honest, there are things that we don't think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big misconception is that sign language is universal. It's not. There's over 100 different variations of sign language. So what I know is American Sign Language. So it's not as if I can go like travel to France and they would know what I was saying, or, you know, there's British Sign Language, French Sign Language.
That's interesting, yeah.
So that's a big misconception that I know that people are surprised by.
That is so interesting. I never thought about that different countries would have a different variation of the language. Amani, is there something, I know you said that Zoom's a little bit more difficult to teach people, but is there something that you could teach us right now that we could give a go?
Sure. Do you guys have like a idea of what you guys wanna?
Let me think. What should we say, guys?
Is this brown or girl?
Yep.
That's the color brown.
It is.
Thank you.
Or do the Beyonce song, Brown Skin Girl?
Yeah, let's learn a little of that.
Yep. Brown skin girl.
Okay. Brown skin.
Brown skin Girl? What was girl?
Girl.
Awesome.
So so this is a sign for boy because it was like a baseball cap. This is a sign for girl because back in the day they used to wear bonnets. So that's a sign for girl.
Wow.
That makes sense. I like that.
Boy.
I love it. It's so fun.
It's so fun.
And learning the
Imani.
meanings and the reasons behind them is pretty awesome too.
Yeah, it is.
Now, obviously, and we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but you kind of got into this because of the relationship that you have with your father. How has that grown? I mean, I imagine it's something that the entire family has to get used to.
Absolutely. He does. He doesn't utilize sign as a primary mode of communication currently. I'm trying to get him to learn some things because it is sometimes when like we're out and someone's talking to him, he may not respond, and the person's looking around, so I have to tell them like, oh, sorry, he didn't hear you. So I have to make sure like I face him, talk a little bit louder, and kind of help him with that. But it's something that we're pretty used to now. But yeah, just advocating for him, letting them know like, oh, can you say it again, or I'll relay what was said to him.
Yeah.
How can people at home be advocates and help support the deaf and hard of hearing community?
Absolutely. I would say maybe one of the most important things to do is to make sure you're signing correctly. I know that can be something that can be offensive to the deaf community, and sometimes, because sign language is something that's their culture. It's something that they take pride in. So advocating by learning properly how to communicate with them, and then just be careful not to do some cultural appropriation of their language and their culture.
Now we have a question here from the comments on Facebook, and someone's asking, what's a good age to start teaching kids sign language?
Immediately. Baby sign has been something that's very popular nowadays. It's amazing. I used to teach my nieces when they were babies, because they can start communicating before they even are able to speak vocally. They can learn some baby signs, cookie, milk, mom, some simple things like that. So I would say, immediately when you think of deaf parents who have deaf babies, or just deaf parents who have hearing babies, they're signing to them immediately. So,
yeah, Imani, again, looking at our Facebook comments, Carlos wrote in, sign language is interesting. I always found the ones at press conferences to be fascinating. And I completely agree. It's kind of going back to the same thing I said about expression. Those people have so much emotion and expression. I almost find myself watching them more than the press conference. I mean, have you ever thought about covering big events like that? Or how does it take to get into one of those?
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. Is definitely a goal of mine. So you definitely need a interpreting license to do those types of things. So it's just a matter of taking courses, of course, learning the language, and then taking a test. There's a couple of different parts, like you have to do a written English proficiency test. So just to make sure that you can think on the fly. I hear this word, what does that mean? So just that you have a basic understanding of English. Then there's a performance test. So you watching, there's a voice, like a receptive one. So someone is signing and you have to voice interpret. That's a piece that people don't think about either. So if you're in front of a deaf person and they're trying to communicate with someone else, you have to be able to interpret their signs to the hearing person. And then there's also your own performance. So giving a script and having to sign what was said to you.
So is a lot of that on the fly?
It is.
Wow. Yeah. I guess I've never thought about it like that, but that's crazy.
Well, it's just it's so funny, Imani, because it's just like our industry, right? Like a lot of people feel like reporters or journalists, they get in front of the camera, they just read whatever is on the prompter. And half of the time, and Brandon and I can, then even Krista can speak on it, you're on a breaking news scene. You have no idea what to say, what's going on. You maybe have 3 bullet points on your phone and you got to go. So, do you still get that anxiety, kind of nerves feeling? Because I feel like that sometimes never goes away.
For sure. I'm always nervous, are they gonna, even if I do have some bullet points, are they gonna go off script? Am I gonna be able to interpret this correctly to the person? Am I going to understand it? So yes, I definitely do still get really nervous. I can't imagine having to actually talk in front of people and do the same thing. So I admire you all too.
Is there a community of deaf and hard of hearing interpreters that you can kind of lean on for support and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I myself am a part of NAOBI. So it's the National Alliance for Black Interpreters. I'm a part of the Chicago chapter of there. And so, yeah, there is.
Absolutely. Imani, let's get your information up on screen so that individuals who have, or even parents who've been on the Facebook comments who have more questions and things like that. There you go. Imani Krishna, her Twitter, or not Twitter, I'm sorry, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I need to get used to seeing that little T.
Yeah.
TikTok thing is going way off the chains. Imani, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thanks, Imani.
Bye.
That's so cool. That's super interesting.
Such an interesting thing that you just don't think about. And she does TikTok Tuesdays, so I hope that we get a new TikTok from her tomorrow. I'll be for sure looking out for that.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting perspective that you don't hear a lot, and I think it's good to spotlight that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to bring in our next guest. We are going to be talking to fashion stylist Brandy Hill about her work to show some love to caregivers across the country. And joining her is a former caregiver and producer of a new web series, Caregiving Makeover. So let's bring in Brandy and Isabel now. Guys, I just watched a little preview of the first show. Really, really sweet initiative here. So hey guys, can you hear us?
Brandy is upside down, I think.
Brandy, you're upside down.
Sorry, y'all.
We got you, Brandy.
There we go.
All right, perfect.
Now we're rocking and rolling. Hi guys, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Tell us all about Eden Life Care and how it's an app and how that kind of led you guys to create this web series.
Yeah, of course. So Eden Life Care is an app that is used to connect family members with their loved ones that are in long-term care facilities, assisted living, nursing homes, or hospitals across the country. So our app is used to connect those family members with their loved ones through the caregivers. The caregivers are the ones that are updating the app, sending family members photos, videos, and any updates that they might need. So that inspired us to take care of the caregivers that are loving up our loved ones and taking such good care of them.
So this Eden Life Care app, what's been the reception like to it?
I'm sorry, say that again.
This Eden Life Care app, what's been the reception like to it from caregivers and their families?
Everyone has been so excited. They're so excited to be able to connect with their loved ones, especially in this time where we're not allowed in a lot of the long-term care facilities to be with our loved ones physically. It's a great option to be able to connect with them when you can't be with them.
So you said you can share photos, you can share videos. Is there a chat feature as well?
There is a chat feature, and you can send messages, updates. You can chat with the nurses and the caregivers that are taking care of your loved ones, send health updates, send photos back and forth, anything that you might need to do.
Now, ladies, you guys are traveling across the country and you're giving caregivers a full pampering experience. But obviously with everything going on, it has, kind of it been scary for you guys? Are you guys mentally prepared to kind of take on this initiative?
Yeah, I think when you do work in the healthcare world, it's just one of those things, we always make sure that we are doing our best to make sure we're safe, that the caregivers are safe as well, but also making sure that they are having that pampering experience. So no, I don't think that I'm been too worried about it. I think, it is what it is, and we still want to make sure it's the best experience for them, but we are making sure that everything is very safe as well.
It's exciting. Now, you guys kind of talked about how, especially in this time, we want to be connected with our loved ones, but we can't. So that's where your app comes in. Is that kind of how the show got inspired, or what really drove you guys to make this new web series?
Well, I think part of it is because these caregivers are doing so much for our loved ones, and they are on the front line. They're the ones that are giving the best care to our loved ones that we can't see right now. And so I think we just sort of wanted just to pay it forward and give back to them because they are working. I think they usually work crazy hours, but now they're putting even more hours in, even, more effort in. And we just wanted to be able to give back and make them feel super special about themselves too.
Isabel, what was your experience like as a caregiver?
As a caregiver, I absolutely loved my time as a caregiver. And I actually worked at a memory care facility. So I had 6 ladies at the time that I was caring for, and their families were very involved and they were able to stop in a lot. But some of the ladies did have extended family that was out of state, and they would call from time to time. But I would have loved to have an app like this to be able to just send them pictures, send them videos. And if you can't be with them in person, the next best thing is sending a photo to cheer up their day. So I would have loved to have an app like this when I was a caregiver. So I'm hoping that this will help improve the lives of the residents and families and the caregivers as well.
Now, ladies, let's try to move forward and think outside of this COVID-19 bubble, if you will, that we're living in right now. Is this something that you hope to carry on even after this pandemic is over, just to have that kind of backbone, that support system for everyone in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something that not just during COVID, but even moving forward after this, we definitely want to keep this initiative moving and be able to give back to these caregivers that are doing so much for our loved ones.
Has there been a makeover story that's really changed just like your perspective on, your experience with caregivers, or what has been the most life-changing story you've heard?
Isabel, do you want to take this one over, or I can go ahead and...
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I absolutely loved Ashley's story. She's a wife, she's a mom, and she had talked about too that her grandparents live in California and they're out of state. And so she doesn't get that opportunity to love on them and be there to take care of them. And so her hope is that there's the caregivers in her grandparents' facility that are doing their very best to take care of her grandparents as if she was there, because that's what she's doing for other people's loved ones as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think Ashley was probably one of my favorites as well, just because the way she talked about her patients and her facility was like her own. And she just had the most heartwarming stories about these patients. And it just makes you want to do more and makes you so much more excited to help these caregivers, because they really are doing so much for our loved ones.
That's huge. I got a chance to check out that first episode. Really good, like quality, the production value and everything. It was really enjoyable to watch. So definitely salute to you two. What is that like? What goes into that? Because you're traveling around. I'm sure there's a lot and quite a process to put that product together. It looks really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we love doing it. It was so much fun. So what we do is we take caregivers from all over. So say, for instance, that the video you saw with Ashley, I flew out to Colorado and her and I went shopping at Target. We had a $500 gift card, and it was so much fun to see, because you can tell she doesn't spend a lot of time on herself because she is a wife, she is a mom. And so, just being able to even go to Target and do some shopping for her, get her some new clothes, some new makeup, some new skincare, and then fast forward to the makeover itself. That was probably some of my best memories doing this. It was so much fun just to be able to spend a few hours with her and give her some love and give, her some pampering as well.
How do you select what caregivers you feature for this?
Yeah, so we go all over the country, and there are caregivers that, we either see from videos or from Facebook, or even we saw Ashley in the newspaper just talking about, how things are going with, being able to be on the front line and seeing, what's going into everything during COVID. So we actually found her in the newspaper.
That's awesome.
That's so exciting. Ladies, I think we sometimes underestimate the work of a caregiver. And I think we touched a little bit on it, that they're taking care of our family members, of our loved ones, as if they were their own. I mean, and maybe you ladies can speak a little bit more on it. but they have hard work to do, and the hours are long, and especially now with everything going on. I mean, things and the industry especially has changed a bit.
Yeah, it definitely has. Being a caregiver, it's a very rewarding experience, but you put your whole heart and soul into it. And although our caregivers are so passionate and they love what they do need to remember to take some time for themselves too, and take a break and catch a breath. And I think that our caregiver makeover initiative just really reminds caregivers, and honestly everyone in this time, with everything that's going on in our world, that everyone just can stop and take a moment for themselves and recharge and be ready for whatever the next day throws at you.
All right.
Yeah, and I want to ask quickly too, a little bit more about the app. So, I mean, like we have been saying, this is amazing for this time. I know myself, I would love to just video chat my Nana more than just call her on the phone, because I want to see her, and she's the most like, I'm most scared to see her and put her at risk, because I'm in the city and she's in the suburbs. So do you need an iPhone? Do you need an iPad? How can someone get this, especially, you know, for the elderly?
Yes, definitely. So the app is iOS and Android compatible. So you can log into it on your phone, iPad, whatever means of technology you have. So the caregivers are actually the ones that are in charge of monitoring the app. So there's no learning curve for the grandparents or mom or dad who's ever in the nursing home assisted living facility. There's no learning curve for them to be able to have to learn a new technology. The caregivers are the ones that initiate that connection between the call between you and your grandma or you and your grandpa. So it's just a wonderful way to stay connected, and we're really excited about it.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. I think everyone who is trying to connect with their loved ones, and, you know, we can really shout out all the caregivers right now. So let's pull up your information on the screen so everyone can follow you guys. You guys can check out this show on YouTube at Eden, and then you could also download the app Eden Life Care and check out everything on their website, edenlifecare.com. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for all the work you're doing too.
Thank you for having us.
Take care, ladies.
Thank you.
What
I
an
love
awesome
talking
app,
about great
awesome
work.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, right when this started, my brothers and I were looking into getting some kind of technology or something for my grandma, who we call Nana for anyone who caught that. It's Italian. But because just calling her isn't enough, you know, you really want to connect with people. So I'm glad that these caregivers are, you know, getting a little spotlight, getting some love, getting a little pampering, because they need it too.
100%. Super important. All right, guys, let's switch gears here a little bit. There's a Black Lives Matter mural that was unveiled over the weekend in Oak Park. I don't know if you saw this, but check it out if you can. Young artists, they came together to recreate a colorful version of the mural that is also in Washington, D.C. Check it out.
My name is Franca Wanchikai, and I am the designer of the Black Lives Matter mural here in Oak Park, Illinois. We're here at the Oak Park Farmers Market unveiling the Black Lives Matter mural. So I sketched out the design, and then we had a ton of volunteers who signed up to help us with the fruition of the actual thing. We had so many people working like for 2 days tirelessly to paint the pavement. I think that if we can put a reminder of this injustice on the street, and also a reminder for people to do better, that is something.
My name is Cortland Kelly. I was the assistant director to creating the Black Lives Matter mural here in Oak Park. I handled the financial aspect with gathering donations, posting actively on social media to get donations, gathering our volunteers, things of that nature. Lots of words of how amazing this turned out. Colin Benson is the original person who came up with this project. Having this mural here in Oak Park is actually the first in Illinois, and it's a big deal because we are being a trailblazer for doing public art and making a very public statement. In addition to that, I think it kind of forces Oak Park to stand behind what they believe they are today. So Oak Park prides itself on being this diverse community that is really uplifting, but there are still some problems here, and I think with having a statement put like this so publicly, it forces the community to really stand behind what this says.
And you can see the hard work here. Everybody can see it. As an Indigenous artist who's also an immigrant in this country, this is at the very core an Indigenous issue. Black lives are Indigenous lives who were taken from their land and put in this stolen land to build on it. So this is about Indigenous lives being misused, being mistreated, being violently used for other people's benefit. And I think that that is an important thing to note.
This is going to be something permanent that ignites other things to happen. We're using it as a catalyst for change, and I think that's what is most important about this piece of work, is that it's not solving the problems, but it's the starting point to everlasting change.
Wow. Now let me tell you what I love about this, okay, is that it's right there. It looks like a farmer's market, right? All these white people are right there walking on it. Like you said, you have to kind of literally stand on what you claim to be, right? And I think that is hugely important. Yes, it's symbolism, and we got to do more than just symbols. We got to do action, but symbols do matter. And having that on the pavement like that is just awesome. I love it. It's colorful. It's great.
Yeah, and you know what, Brandon? Symbols start conversations, which is, and I hate to be redundant, and I hate to, talk about the same way of expression here, but that's what I think that we have to focus on here is conversation, right? What does Black Lives Matter mean? Where did it come from? What is it going to continue to be? Things like that. So I think it's a great start. All right, guys, we're going to keep it moving here. We're going to bring in our next two guests, Olivia Farrell and Caitlin A. Tupper. They are citywide advocates against domestic violence. They're joining us now to share their perspectives from working with the underserved and LGBTQ communities. Hello. Can you guys hear us? We have Caitlin.
Hi, good afternoon. Glad to be here.
Upside down a little bit.
Oh no. It's a little bit better.
There we go.
Okay, great.
There we go. Olivia, can you hear us okay? We're all good?
Yes, I can. Hi.
All right, perfect. Ladies, well, thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about it, right? Domestic violence in the LGBTQ community. I mean, how do we talk about it? Where do we start? How do we bring awareness to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important that we're speaking on this because I think that we usually do focus on domestic violence and we think of domestic violence as a man harming a woman. And that's usually the depictions that we see through advertisements, through media, is usually a woman who's been a survivor of physical violence. So I think it's really important that we talk about how domestic violence affects all different types of relationships and particularly the LGBTQ community, particularly bisexual folks in the trans community who are very marginalized within the LGBTQ community and are going to be more vulnerable to intimate partner violence or domestic violence.
How much of a role do you think that stereotypes and stigmas of the LGBTQ community have impacted this kind of, like you kind of mentioned, people not really looking at domestic violence in the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think stigma plays a huge piece of it. I know I've worked with gay men who have said that they've been really worried about reaching out for help because they felt as men, they have this pressure to protect themselves or feel like they're not a man if they're a survivor of domestic violence from their partner. Or sometimes we have this image of lesbian relationships or queer women relationships that women are very nurturing and supportive and caring, and we may not recognize that there very much can be abuse and violence within those relationships. And there can be a lot of barriers for LGBTQ folks to reach out, that they may not be out to their friends, to their employer, to their loved ones. So they may not feel safe in coming forward and sharing that they're in a relationship, which means outing them or outing their partner.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, I could only imagine, there's been with pandemic and everything, there's got to be a spike with, these numbers because people are stuck at home now. So how has the pandemic affected domestic violence, especially in the LGBTQ plus community?
It's really hard. Go ahead, Olivia.
Thank you. There's definitely been a spike in domestic violence incidents. So the network runs the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline, and we've seen a huge increase in calls during COVID. A lot of increase in text messages as well, because it's a little safer to maybe sneak a text than it is to make a phone call. But one interesting thing that has come about during this time period is because of COVID, There's sort of these new service models that are coming to be. So in terms of like providing shelter instead of a traditional shelter model, we're using things like hotels and apartments to provide that physical health. And because of that, and because we are kind of shifting away from more of the traditional model, we are seeing like more male callers. The proportion, even in comparison to the increase in calls for male callers, has really gone up, and specifically those seeking shelter. So as we've kind of explored different service models during COVID, it's allowed us to sort of reach some of these folks who we might not otherwise.
And when we look at, Senator Ron Halstead does amazing work for the LGBTQ community here in Chicago, and I think outside of Chicago as well. Where do you guys step in when it comes to domestic violence and handling that issue? What role do you play?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the director of the Anti-Violence Project here at Senator Ron Halstead. That we're also a member of the network. We're also a member of the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs. So we've been doing this work for many years. So folks can contact our Anti-Violence Project at 773-871-2273 to get connected with one of our team members. That all of us are trained in helping out survivors of domestic violence, and survivors can access free counseling services, case management, advocacy services, all through us. That we offer grants for folks to take away that barrier for folks to be able to pay for services, that we can give them that support and help them on that path of healing and empowerment.
That's amazing. Now, when we are talking about what we can do to help the cause, or when we're in the situation, there are times where as friends or as family, you don't want to come off as judgy, or you don't want to come off as, let me tell you what to do in a certain situation. So what are some tips or some things that we can spot in relationships that suffer from this? What can we tell our loved ones in terms of kind of the path to find help?
So there's a lot of red flags to look for in these relationships. So typically, when you have these sort of power and control dynamics that you see in domestic violence situations, the person who's causing harm will really sort of isolate the other individual who's being harmed. So you'll see them sort of retreat from their other relationships. So maybe it's a friend you haven't heard from for a while. You're noticing they're not partaking in some of the activities they normally would, or they speak and they say things like, oh, my partner doesn't allow me to do that, kind of speaks to those control dynamics. And when you do hear those things, the biggest thing, as you said, you don't want to come off as judgmental or push them too hard, because they will retract. So providing support and being a friend, being a listening ear rather than judgment, telling them supportive things, lifting up their self-esteem. And then you can reach out to service providers and say, hey, I have this friend who's going through this situation, and they can help walk you through that process. So for example, you can call the hotline and say, I'm calling on behalf of my friend who is experiencing this, and they will kind of walk you through some questions on what that situation is like and what resources can be helpful in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of first off think that abuse, when you first think of it, it's just physical or sexual, but there are several layers of abuse that, a friend or a family member could be going through. What can we look out for, and what kinds of abuse, kind of surprise people?
I think things are much more digital now. So what we do notice with a lot of the survivors coming forward is that their partner is monitoring their social media use, or who they're communicating with on their phone, or they have their passwords to their bank account online or to their email address. So just since we use technology so much in our day-to-day life, sometimes we don't catch that part of abuse, is that surveillance or monitoring through someone's social media or their technology devices. And with the LGBTQ community, sometimes it can look different too. So for trans folks, their partner may threaten to remove their access to their hormones, or may threaten to call their employer and out them to their employer, which could potentially jeopardize their feelings of safety or well-being at their job. So it looks different for every survivor, but every day I learn more and more stories of how folks have experienced emotional or verbal or financial abuse, because just like you said, it's not just physical or sexual abuse that folks have survived.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You're on
and
mute, Deanna.
I'm muted because my dog is like walking around. I'm so sorry. Is there ever, or is it ever too soon to report something? I know I've heard some stories where it's like it'll get better, or it's not that bad yet. Is there kind of a threshold, or it once you know, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no threshold. There's no too soon. If you are concerned for yourself in a relationship or concerned for another being, absolutely reach out to someone who can provide assistance, because you never know when something might escalate drastically. There's no set timeline. As Caitlin said, it looks different in every situation. So if you see some of these early warning signs that are sending off signals in your head, definitely reach out to someone. Don't think it's too early or too soon, because maybe you're wrong, but you don't want to be, and you always want to get folks help when they need it.
How can those who are watching right now support this work, especially those who are not part of the LGBTQ community and maybe are watching this now and are like, wow, I didn't really think about this before?
I think a big part is just continuing to raise their awareness, continuing their education through online, or continuing to speak up on this. If they hear about a news story of domestic violence, being able to share their perspectives and understanding that we can be non-judgmental of the survivor, just like how Olivia was sharing. Folks can certainly sign up to volunteer with one of our organizations. That Center in Halstead, before COVID, we had a ton of different events for the Anti-Violence Project and for Center in Halstead that we hope to resume in the near future. And if folks are able to, certainly donating, because COVID has taken a toll on a lot of our programs and a lot great organizations out there. So if folks are able to donate either their time or their finances, it's a great help as well.
All
Something what I keep getting from all of these topics is that we just need to be having more conversations about this. And I'm so glad that everything is kind of brought to surface. I mean, as we're all kind of stuck at home, it's just becoming so much more common to have these talks with your friends and over dinner. And, it's so important to just keep it top of mind.
100%. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate this really important conversation, and I'm glad that we're able to have it right here. Let's flash up some more information there about the Center on Halstead and their anti-violence project. You can see the information there on your screen. Really important. You see something, say something. Thank you so much. And the network for advocating against domestic violence as well. Their information right there on your screen. They're on East Wacker Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys,
Really important
it's
stuff.
Numbers like that we have to, like that hotline, you know what I mean, that we have to be able to have and share and freely talk about.
Yeah, that can be something tough to talk about. But yeah, like I was saying, I'm having these conversations a lot more with my friends, and I'm really glad that, I mean, I'm not glad because it's horrible things that we're talking about sometimes, but it's something that we need to talk about, and it's tough to have, but I'm glad we're doing it, is my point. But I want to ask you guys, have you guys left your house at all? We're in phase 4 now. Have you ventured out? Have you gone to any bars? What's up?
I did. I ventured out. I said I wouldn't do this. I got on a flight. I got on a plane, and I don't know. Things are so different. It's something definitely that we have to get used to. But nonetheless, things are way different than what we knew back in March.
Brandon, you're staying home, right?
Yeah, I'm not hitting no bars or nothing.
I know, guys.
Some friends were asking me about a patio. I did not want to do that. I don't know. I'm seeing, like, I don't know if you saw Wrigleyville. Wrigleyville was packed.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be up in all that.
When we talked about this last week, I said I was scared and I wasn't really sure if I was going to do it. And then there I was, pretty much the first day I checked out this rooftop bar, Whiskey Business, because they're doing something really cool, because you guys know how much I love concerts. So I want you guys to take a look at what they're doing with their Neon Reef Nights. It may feel like Summertime Shy is canceled, but places like Whiskey Business and Wicker Park are making sure we get a little something. This rooftop is spicing things up as Chicago starts to reopen, and I'm here with Tony to tell us more.
When all of this hit, we had one of our managers that actually decided that it would be a great idea to bring the beach to the Whiskey Business rooftop because we weren't allowed to go to the beach anymore. Flash forward a little ways into like getting this completed, we had to bring another experience to our rooftop. And when we found out that they canceled all the concerts in Chicago and over the country, we decided, hey, why don't we bring the concert experience to the Whiskey Business rooftop? Obviously, you're gonna have the EDM music from the nightclubs, but we wanna do Bob Marley, we wanna do 80s, we wanna do 90s, we wanna do hip hop, we want to do pop music. It's going to be everything, something for everyone, something that they can enjoy.
The company that you guys partnered with, they're not, some amateurs in the business. They've worked with Millennium, they've worked with Porter Robinson, Aerosmith. Yeah. So these are big wigs in the light show biz.
Yeah. I think we have the equivalency right now of 27,600 laser pointers all on this. That's how much we have going into this setup right now. And these guys we got, again, it's very fortunate, it's unfortunate times, but again, it's that fortunate meeting them and finding something that we can find a common ground. Without having any concerts, these guys travel worldwide, and we had the benefit of being able to work on something to bring that experience to our roof. The one thing we want is everybody to feel safe. From our masks that we had, custom masks, we actually have incorporated our bouncers are now lifeguards. So you're gonna see people walking around with these red lifeguard shirts. They're responsible to making sure we're keeping 6 feet of distance from each other. We have sanitizers throughout the entire place, temperature checks too when you walk in. As much as we can to incorporate the theme to have fun with it. But again, safety's number one. We just want to be able to have some fun with that safety.
I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but Lori can keep the beach canceled. Like, I don't need the beach. I got the Whiskey Business rooftop.
We'll be fine here for a while. We'll be fine here for a while.
Okay, fine. You've convinced me.
I forgot how good it feels to go out. I really did. And it really brought me back to life, guys. It was a really cool rooftop, really innovative what they're doing there, making you feel, it felt good. It felt like a concert.
Yeah.
I gotta go back.
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of forgot that I'd been to Whiskey Business before. I was like, "What is Whiskey Business?" And now,
Wicker Park.
I've definitely spent some time there.
That's the point, Brennan. It looks like a completely different place. All right, guys, let's bring in our next guest. Fabrizio Guido is a young actor on the rise. Now, you may have seen him on Mr. Iglesias on Netflix, and he's here with us today to continue on the conversation. Look at how chill he looks. Look at him.
Hey, I was lost in thought. You guys caught me really off guard.
He's like, ask me whatever you want.
Yeah. How are
What's
you?
going on? How are you?
Good. It's good afternoon.
I know, right?
Yeah, right?
And you guys are coming live from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So it's a time change over there.
You're in LA, right?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
All right, so let's talk about the Netflix show. I was going through all your clips. Hilarious, by the way.
Thank you.
Like working with Fluffy.
For me, it's a dream come true. I mean, I've been a fan of Gabe since like I was like 7 or 8. I grew up on his stand-up, and it's funny. I always say like he was there for me, but he wasn't really there for me. Like I never went to his shows. I didn't know him in person, but now it's like, I've gotten a chance to meet him, and it's like, it's just super awesome. I mean, it's someone that I've always really admired, and he had always been a role model for me in comedy, and now he's a role model for me as a human being, as a person.
Were you nervous the first time you met him?
I remember meeting him at a chemistry read when I was auditioning for the show. And I remember I wasn't necessarily nervous to meet him. I was more nervous about how I was going to do in my performance.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous during the chemistry read when I walked out. I remember he had asked me if I wanted to do it again. And I was like, no, I'm fine. He said, you're a confident one. And I was like, yeah. Stepped out and I was like, oh, shoot, what did he mean by that? And I was so tempted to go back inside into the room and say like, hey, like, let's do it again. By the time I like made up my mind, I was already off the studio lot, and they weren't going to let me back in. But I remember feeling like really down because I didn't think I did a good job. And I just like took a minute to sit down, and I was like, you know, instead of being down, like, why don't you just acknowledge that you just were in a room with like one of your heroes, dude? And it just like immediately turned into like the best day for me. And a couple days later, I got the call that I was on the show, and I was just stoked.
That's got to be a special feeling. Has he given you any advice about navigating this entertainment industry?
You know what? Gabe and I don't really talk about the industry too much. I mean, I think it's you know, Gabe and I grew up not too far from each other, and we grew up very similarly. So it's like when we're together, it's rare that we actually talk about the industry, but it's just like we find comfort in, you know, being with each other, and it kind of becomes like a, I don't know, it's like we take a break from kind of the work thing, even though we're at work, and it just really feels like family.
100%. So tell me about this show, Mr. Iglesias. What's it like for anyone that hasn't checked it out yet on Netflix?
So it's a multicam sitcom. It's kind of like you know, paying homage to like the kind of sitcoms that were in the 90s. And it's starring Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, and he takes on a group of misfit kids at a school that are at risk of like failing or dropping out. I happen to be one of those students, and it's just it's a comedy. It's a heartwarming show, and it's really funny.
You got a lot of fans in the comments right now. People are loving you. I love this kid. Can we talk about that final kiss scene with Marisol?
Oh, I didn't even know. I wasn't even aware that I was live. I wasn't even aware that I was live. This is great.
Oh, it's live.
Wow.
It's live, man.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we're on Facebook.
Thank you guys.
So now you have to answer the question.
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
Okay, so they made us do that scene so many times, and I'm not complaining, but it was just like you know, Cree is super awesome, and you know, we always have such a great time on set. You know, I've known her for like 2 years now. This is our second season, and you know, she's a good friend of mine, and you know, we have that comfort, and we're just like super cool with each other. I remember getting to the table read that week, and that being the episode, you know, because this is really something we've been working towards since season 1. You know, it's what people have been asking for, and it was just really exciting to, you know, see where this is going. You know, part 3 is coming, and you know, I'm super stoked for everybody to see what's there.
Now you guys kind of started as total opposites, right? Sorry, Dee, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Your characters were totally opposite.
Yeah.
And now you're kissing. I mean, how do you prep for a kiss scene? I got to know. Like, do you just brush your teeth like 5 times, or what goes into that?
Opposites attract. Yeah. So you know, there's people that have allergies and sensitivities. Cree is one of those people. So she's allergic to peanuts, so I wasn't allowed to eat peanuts, or I wasn't allowed to eat a bunch of stuff prior to the kissing scene throughout that whole week and during rehearsal. So I think that was like the biggest deal. I know for other sets, they have like, I mean, this was just a simple kiss, but they have like intimacy coordinators and stuff, which is like pretty cool that they do that, and they go out of their way to bring people that, you know, to keep everything safe, and to, you know, make sure you're going at the same pace and everyone's comfortable. But that's kind of the process for something like that.
What a job, intimacy coordinator.
I know. What a title.
That's pretty interesting. But hey, we have to talk about your character, right? Mikey Gutierrez. And I'm a Gutierrez, and I'll just say that you have a lot of Gutierrez in you in the show. So that means that you're doing a phenomenal job. But prepping for a role like that, right? How do you mentally prepare? Do you read up on stuff? Do you have to be like, okay, let me talk to myself, like, let me get my mindset ready? What was your journey?
Honestly, this one was one of the, I think the hardest part was really sinking into the comedy and trying to find my own comedy and bringing it, because I didn't want to like copy and paste anything else that I had seen before. To be honest with you, I've grown up around Mikey Gutierrez my whole life. Like, I've grown around people like that my entire life. So it was very easy for me to sink into this character.
That's so interesting.
We got another Facebook comment here. Question about the show. If Mr. Iglesias ends up dating the new school counselor, give us the details.
No, those are spoilers. What?
I mean, yeah, they're major
Let him
spoilers.
decide if it's a spoiler.
They're major spoilers, but all I can say is part 3 won't let you guys down.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's what they call a tease.
What's that chemistry like within the team? Because, you know, we see maybe 2 or 3 characters, or maybe like obviously in the school scenes, we see all the class together, but I'm sure that behind the scenes and really everyone else plays a big role on how comfortable you feel, on how you can be yourself on set, things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they have like the studio that we're at now. We're at Sunset and Bronson, and we're at Netflix studio. Before we were at Radford at CBS, and the rooms. So our green rooms, like, you know, when we have our breaks and stuff, we all kind of retreat back to that. It was just like one long hallway. Now it's kind of like been divided because there's like bathrooms and stuff in between and like hallways. One side of the room is all where all the kids are at. Myself, Tucker, Cree, Gloria, Coy, everyone's on that side, and it's like a frat house over there. I mean, we have like rearranged the walls, we have games, we have all this stuff, and then on the other side the adults are there. And I remember Gabe coming to our side and realizing we had like all these cool toys, and the next day he like flipped their side around as well. So I mean, it's really like family though. I mean, it's like we're all these like little cousins, and everybody else on the other side is like our uncles and aunts, and we get along perfectly. I mean, it's just one of those sets where I've never felt like it really is like family, and like culturally as well. Like I said, Gabe and I and a few other people grew up in similar areas and stuff. So it's like, yo, have you been here? Have you been to this restaurant? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And it's like, yeah, we get it. And it's a really special show.
As an actor yourself, do you ever find yourself, do you find it weird to watch yourself on TV?
Yeah. Very, very weird. I'm you know, on set when, you know, during the live shows and stuff, when we have playbacks of scenes that we had shot before, you'll most likely catch me like when my scene is up in a corner, like turned around, not watching myself, probably with my ears covered or something, because I can't see it.
Wow. I mean, you're young, you're 21, and you've been in family and movies like Family and World War Z, and you've also been in Grey's Anatomy, one of my favorites. So you've already done so much. I mean, what's something that you've yet accomplished that you really want to in either a movie or show?
Oh, I mean, I'm ready to start transitioning into writing and directing. That's really what I want to do. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know deserve a shot, as well as actors that are close friends of mine that I would love for the world to see. Yeah, I got so many stories that I'd like to tell, and that's really where my interest is right now. I love acting, and that's one of my passions. But you know, for me, it really is that element of surprise that keeps me going. Like I could have never imagined that I'd be on a show with one of my favorite stand-up comedians, and I think that's the case for a lot of my work. It's like I never could have imagined that, and I love that element of surprise. So I don't really set like expectations for what it is that I want to do as far as roles.
You've really grown up in the industry, right? You know, you kind of finish your life in showbiz, and you've had some cool opportunities because of it, going around the world. Do you have any advice for any aspiring actors out there who see you on screen and say, "Hey, I want to do stuff like that"?
Yeah, I mean, it's just be ready when opportunity comes. I mean, study up. You know, just be prepared. Try to find classes, whether it be theater. If you know, sometimes if you're not in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, it's kind of hard to find work, or even Texas and Atlanta. Like they have it's a growing business there. But yeah, try to find classes. You know, there's so much material, and study film. You know, watch older movies. Watch interviews with some of your favorite actors, people that you admire. You know, you might get some insight as to who they like, and you can learn from them.
Absolutely. Fabrizio, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing all your insights, and thank you for not giving us all the spoilers, okay? Because I'm still watching, and I don't want to know. See what I mean? Look at my dog. My dog doesn't want to know either. All right, guys.
Fabrizio, did I age you? Are you 21 or are you younger? Or did the Google lie to me?
No. I turned 21 on May 28th. I just turned 21 a couple weeks ago.
Oh, quarantine birthday.
Yeah.
Belated.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're all quarantine babies. All right, let's get your information up on the screen here. There we go. Mr. Iglesias, seasons 1 and 2 available on Netflix right now, guys. If you have any time, go ahead. It's hilarious. There you go. There are all the handles that you need: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. All right. Hey, he's awesome.
What a cute little heartbreaker he's going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
sure he already is.
Right?
A great
Guys,
show. Oh, go
I've
ahead.
debated about leaving my dog outside, but it's just too hot and too humid that I feel like that's like animal
Bring
abuse.
Noah in. Let's see her.
She's
Oh my goodness.
what is there's no, and I promise you there's no one at the door. Okay, I'm gonna mute
She's
myself.
on Neighborhood Watch. She's on Neighborhood Watch. All right, D, we got
All right, I want to tell you guys about DC Stargirl. Great show on CW26. It's on Tuesday nights on CW26. If you haven't watched it yet, it follows some high schoolers, a high school student in particular, an unlikely hero named Courtney Whitmore, who's called to action when she discovers her stepfather's secret past with the Justice Society of America. I got to interview one of the cast members today, Amy Smart. She plays the mom, Barbara. You can catch that interview tomorrow on the CW26 Facebook page and catch up on the series before tomorrow night at cwtv.com. They got all the episodes there to stream. You don't want to miss that.
Good stuff. And guys, do not sleep on this, okay? It's your last chance to be a part of our summer barbecue. And we're celebrating the summer with our backyard barbecue. We need you to send us your recipes to jamrealshy@wciu.com. And throughout this week, we are going to be giving them a go ourselves, okay? So my roommate and I, we've been cooking a lot in quarantine. I don't want to say we're good chefs, but I think we're not bad. So let us give your recipes a try. Send them in and email it to us by today. Okay, today is the deadline, and you can check out the other recipes that people have put up already on our website, cw26chicago.com.
All right, get those recipes in. Thanks a lot, everybody. We got more of the jam coming up all throughout the week. 9 a.m. for news, and then 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. for all the fun. We'll see you guys locked and loaded on the Facebook. All right.
See you tomorrow, guys.
She's back, D. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you. I love Nala. You know, you got to let the girl